Hey guys, so my husband is Dutch and his grandmother used to make this cake called kuka, which is like a spiced cake with raisins and a bunch of spices. And so he has it written down here. His grandmother wrote this down for him. And she has it as poor man's cake because apparently back in the day, it used to be baked in a can, like an old coffee can. He bakes it in a regular loaf pan, but back in the day it was baked in an old coffee can. He said they actually used to bake it in the coffee can. So to start, you're going to put 3 cups of water in a pot. And you want it to be a decent sized pot because you're going to boil everything in this pot and then you're going to leave it on the stove overnight. And then tomorrow, the next day, you're going to put in the flour and all the other ingredients, mix everything, and then you put it in the loaf pan. So 3 cups of water, and you're going to do 1 tablespoon of molasses. One tablespoon of butter. I think that looks like a little bit more than a tablespoon, but that's okay. That looks so weird in there. Then you're going to do one 12-ounce box of raisins. Okay. Then you're going to do 1 cup of sugar. We're going to do 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. That's 1 and 2. And then we're going to do 3/4 teaspoons of ground cloves. So this is half a teaspoon. And then we're going to do 1/4. And that's the 1/4. Next ingredient is nutmeg. And you're going to do 3/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg also. So that's half a teaspoon there. And we're going to do another 1/4. That's the 1/4 teaspoon. And then the next ingredient is allspice. And you're going to do 3/4 of a teaspoon of allspice, just like the other ones. So we got half a teaspoon of allspice. And now we're going to do 1/4 teaspoon. All right. Okay, so now you're going to stir this all together. And then you're going to turn it on. You're going to bring it up to a boil. And you're going to let it boil for 5 minutes. And then you're going to turn it off and just let it sit on the stove overnight. Right. And when this is simmering and boiling for 5 minutes, your house is going to smell like Christmas. It's going to smell like holidays. It's going to be warm. It's just going to be so delicious smelling. And then tomorrow when it bakes, it smells amazing in the house again. So we're just going to turn on the burner. All right. And you want to use a decent sized pot like this because tomorrow when you go to finish the poor man's cake, you're going to put the flour and all the other ingredients in the pot right here. Mix everything together. So you want to use a decent sized pot. Steam, guys, this just started boiling. That steam smells like Christmas. Love that smell. Okay. Once it starts to boil, you just have to let it boil for 5 minutes, but give it a stir to make sure nothing is like stuck to the bottom. Woo! Steamy. Just giving all that a stir. Smells like spice and everything nice. So good. So it's just simmering away for 5 minutes. And then we're going to turn it off and just let it sit overnight. Okay, so the 5-minute timer is going off. So we're going to turn off the stove. We're going to turn off the pot of goodness. And now this is going to sit overnight covered until tomorrow morning because this has to be completely cooled on its own before you put any other ingredients in. Guys, so it's day 2. In here, you can see the pieces of butter that have cooled down. They're floating on top. The raisins are super plump and juicy. So now we're going to get started on the the dry ingredients. And the oven is preheated. It just went off to 350. Okay, so now we're going to measure out the dry ingredients, which are down here. So in this bowl, we have 3.5 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then over here, he has a baking pan. This is a loaf pan, but it's square and it's extra long. But it's more shallow than a standard one. But this was his grandmother's. It says made in Canada on the bottom. This is really old. And he just greased it with a little bit of Crisco. And this is what he's going to use to pour the cake in and bake it. And now you're going to take all your dry ingredients and you're going to pour them into the wet ingredients and start mixing. As you're mixing this, you're going to realize it's a very, very, very thick, heavy batter because there's a lot of raisins in here, but it's just a really thick batter. And you just want to make sure you get all the flour out of the corners. And then you're going to put it in your greased loaf pan. If you're using a long pan, just make sure you spread it out evenly. And then you're just going to take your spatula or your spoon and you're just going to smooth it out on top and make sure it's nice and even in the baking loaf. And that's it. Pop it in the oven at 350 for 1 hour. See you in a bit. Okay, guys, the timer just went off. This has been baking for an hour. The house smells deliciously yummy. And this, it rose, it's golden brown, it's perfect. So he said he's going to let it sit for 10 minutes in the pan to cool down. That's the side view to see how much it rose. And then after 10 minutes, he's going to flip it out onto this cooling rack. He put a cooling rack here. So I'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay, guys, it's been 10 minutes. So we're flipping it out. Look at that, came right out. Beautiful. Ooh, steaming hot. Beautiful. Look at that. It's a heavy cake.
It is heavy.
Very heavy cake. Beautiful. Look at that. Perfectly golden brown. Beautiful cake. It smells so good. Smells delicious. And now you can let it cool down or you can cut a slice and eat it warm. Okay, he wants to let it cool down and then we'll cut a few slices to show you what the inside looks like. So we'll be back in 15 minutes. Okay guys, so it's been cooling for 15 minutes and we're gonna cut some slices to show you the inside. Okay, hold on. Look at that, guys. Look. Look how moist that is. Look at those plump, juicy raisins. So good. All right. Okay, snack time. Now, I like to eat it plain with a cup of coffee in the morning. My husband likes to eat it for dessert or for a snack with some butter on it. He puts butter on his. And sometimes I put a slice in the toaster and make it super crispy, crunchy, like a piece of toast, and then put butter on it. Any which way you have it, if you love warm flavors and spices like cloves and cinnamon and nutmeg and allspice and all those warm, strong, spicy flavors, then chances are you're going to love this. And of course, you need to like raisins too. So sometimes my husband gives these out at Christmas time to people. So we hope he gave you a wonderful idea of something new to bake, something maybe you haven't tried before, and something warm and spicy and delicious for the holidays. Thank you for watching. Bye.
What are you doing? Put it clock.
Look, it ain't coming off.